Semifinal week in the Always Sunny in Sayreville League, and the Cinderella run is finally over. 1 minute, Bobby J was dressed to the nines, in a chariot, on his way to the ball, and the next minute he was in rags, sitting on a squashed pumpkin. It can happen that fast. It can happen sometimes as fast as one play, which brings me to this week's injuries. Unfortunately, one of our games was marred by injury, which you never like to see, especially in a playoff game of this magnitude. Well, you know what? For more on the entire injury situation as it took place in the semifinals, let's go live right now to our Karma correspondent, Albert from Toddler Fight Club.
What's happening, Sayreville? It's Albie from the Toddler Fight Club here. This week's injury report. A couple guys got hurt in their games. Rex Burkhead went down, but because I couldn't beat Bobby, that didn't really fucking matter, did it? But in that same game, another big-time player did get hurt, and that's Antonio Brown. Now, last week's episode, you might remember somebody mentioning Karma, then instantly talking shit. Now, I don't know that much about Karma, but I do know that if you fuck with Karma, it will immediately bite you in the ass. That is what happens in the world. So I'm not saying that Bobby is directly responsible for AB getting hurt, but Bobby's directly responsible for AB getting hurt. Antonio Brown goes down the week after he drops like a 40-point bomb, and then Bobby talks shit. It's kind of amazing. Too bad, Bob. Maybe next time. Other injuries in the league this week, though, too. Marquise Lee went down, so you're going to see somebody else. I think Cole or somebody else in that spot probably for the blump. That one is going to have a direct effect on this whole thing. And is Zeke back yet? I don't know. Maybe that's going to happen, too. I don't know. Maybe. All right, guys, take it easy. And I think we all learned a really important lesson about karma. Yeah, it's true. By the way, you should probably call the Steelers and all their fan base and make a public apology for causing that injury. I would if it was me, but I'm not one to cause that kind of thing in the world. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you next year.
High score this week with 49 points was Todd Gurley, who once again led the Moth, who's been living and dying off the strength of his running backs this year. This week, the augmented Big Three completely trampled the poor sweet number 1 seed Schwartz, 162.5 to 105.9. Todd Gurley scored 30% of the Moth's points, and the three running backs together scored 62% of the Moth's points. With this win, the Moth punches his ticket to the second championship game in franchise history, and for that, the Moth is this week's hero. Alright guys, now it's time for this week's GOAT. Now I like to be right just as much as anybody, but being right doesn't always make you happy. I learned this when I was married. In terms of this week's games, I told you what was going to happen, and it did. Now I'm not going to harp on one bad aspect of an otherwise great debut season in this league, but if anybody ever asks you what regression means in terms of fantasy football, show them the Schwartz's 2017 season. The run he had against low-scoring teams was unsustainable, and the pendulum finally swung back in the other direction. And for that, the Schwartz is this week's GOAT. Just a quick note, there was actually another game that was played this weekend as well. We sort of hinted about it at the top of the show. Team Blumpkin defeated Beer Muscles by a score of 137.1 to 117.9. Unfortunately, the story in this game was injuries. Team Blumpkin sustained an injury to Marquise Lee early in the game. He scored a 0. However, that obviously didn't affect him quite as much as Beer Muscles, who lost Antonio Brown right at the beginning of his game. He only scored 4.4 points. There's no telling what Antonio Brown could have been capable of in that game. It was definitely a gut punch to Beer Muscles, and certainly contributed to his loss on semifinal weekend. Team Blumpkin, victorious, will be defending his title next week. Alright guys, we're almost ready to break down the championship matchup, but first, it's time for the season finale of Odd Sundays.
Hello, Sunnians, Sayrevillians, I don't know. Another season of odd Sundays has come to a close, and I fear I've had a sophomore slump. It'll be next year that determines whether or not I'm Jamarcus Russell or Russell Wilson. The fact that it was the Patriots is the only way that I can feel sorry for the Steelers getting gypped. Although they do deserve it. I will refer you, of course, to a little game called Super Bowl 50, where the fix was in. Just to show you that I'm not completely biased towards the Seahawks, I would like to congratulate the new titans of the NFC West, the LA Rams, reminiscent of the greatest show on turf, except now it's Crips turf. Their coach, Sean McVay, is only 31 years old, which means I've wasted my life. Have I talked about this? I've probably talked about this. But it just shows to go you that the Redskins have absolutely no idea how to run their franchise. Sean McVay could be their head coach, or at the very least Kyle Chandler, who's the offensive coordinator on the hottest team in football, your San Francisco 49ers, quarterbacked by Janine Garofalo. And finally, my Super Bowl prediction. Following a trend in college football where the South is rising again, in a game that no one will watch, the Carolina Panthers will lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not since the 2000 Baltimore Ravens have I seen a team like this, so good, yet so quarterbackingly inept. It's been a great year, folks. Not for me, of course. Enjoy my money, and we'll talk to you next time.
Alright guys, key matchups. It's championship time. Two teams battling it out for all the marbles. Not only for the opportunity to call themselves champion, but the opportunity to call themselves champion again. That's right, we have two former champions battling it out. Not only do we have two former champions, but one of them is the defending champion. This matchup is great, and I can't wait to break it all down. We have the number 2 seed Team Blumpkin, who finished the regular season with a record of 8-5 and won the Porter Division, and oh by the way, won the league championship last year. He was the number 2 scoring team in the league, scoring 1,739.8 points, or about 133.8 per game. He's going against the number 5 seed and 2014 league champion, the Moth, who finished the regular season with a record of 7-6 and scored 1,711.8 points, or about 131.7 points per game. These two teams met twice this year, and they split those meetings 1-1. The average score was 136.1 to 130.5 in favor of Team Blumpkin, and the all-time record between these two teams is 3-2, also in favor of Team Blumpkin. During the regular season, Team Blumpkin's highest scoring player was Cam Newton, who scored 230.8 points, or about 19.2 per game, and the Moth's highest scoring player was Todd Gurley, the overall running back 1, who scored 270.2 points, or about 22.5 per game. During the playoffs, the Moth's best player has been Todd Gurley, and Team Blumpkin, although they've only played one game, got a big game out of Gronk, so we'll see who's going to be a major contributor in the coming week. And for a more in-depth breakdown, stay tuned because we have another special guest going position by position. So that's it, guys. Semifinal week update over. One more week before we find out whose name goes on the last spot on the first level of the cup. Good luck to both teams that are playing. Don't forget to set your lineups. Don't forget to vote in the polls. And I will see you guys probably in like 2 or 3 weeks where it's always sunny. All right, thank you very much. This is the final edition of the playoff position by position breakdown, the championship edition, and with me to break it all down, you know him, you love him, pretty boy Johnny Ortiz from the Bootleg Crab Leg, all the way from Florida. What's up? What's up, Johnny?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, so thanks for taking a few minutes. First of all, how's it going down in sunny Florida?
It's nice. It's 82 degrees.
Oh, all right. Very good. We got
I'm
some.
rubbing it a little bit.
That's all right. We
And
got some winter
I
weather
definitely
up
wanted
here.
to wish everybody in the league Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and good luck to Tom and Mike on your upcoming matchup.
Awesome. So let's just get right into it. You're going to go position by position. You know how this is done. I think you've done it before.
Yep.
So let's just get right into it. The teams we have in the finals this year are number 2 seed Team Blumpkin, who finished the regular season with a record of 8-5. He has one championship under his belt, and as a matter of fact, he's the defending champion. And on the other side is the number 5 seed Moth, 7-6 regular season record. And he was the 2014 champ. So one way or the other, we're going to get a 2-time champ. It's either going to be a defend or it's going to be, just your traditional second championship. So let's take a look at the lineups. First of all, we got the quarterbacks. Johnny, what do you see?
All right. Well, I see Philip Rivers going against that New York Jets defense, and I have Cam Newton going against Tampa Bay. Now, both of these are really juicy matchups for both. However, Cam Newton's a little beat up, but I think Cam is going to be fine, and I think he can tear up that Tampa Bay secondary pretty well. On the other hand, we have Philip Rivers going against the Jets defense at MetLife Stadium, or should I say JetLife Stadium. I have this a very, very close matchup. However, I have Philip Rivers by a slim margin based off matchup. The only reason why I'm saying that is the Jets look really, really bad lately. I don't know if you've been watching the Jets, but basically the defense has been giving up a ton of points, ton of yardage, and I feel like Philip Rivers has something to prove. But it can always swing the same way in Cam Newton's favor, and he could tear up that Tampa Bay defense pretty bad. Their defense has been no good all year long, and I could see that they're going to have a hard time moving the football up the field. So I have Philip Rivers slightly over Cam Newton. A lot of people may disagree with me, but it's very closely, so I can say the quarterbacks are pretty much evened out. But either way, I think quarterback is actually the number one thing that's going to come down to this whole entire matchup. All right, so now we're back at running backs. So Tom has Melvin Gordon and Todd Gurley, which is a running back heaven over here. He has Melvin Gordon going against the Jets, but the Jets are traditionally good against the run, but not so much this year. I have Melvin Gordon probably running all over that Jets defense. It's either Philip Rivers or Melvin Gordon goes off, either or. That's how I look at it in this game. And if the Jets could stay competitive like how they have, Philip Rivers can have a big game chucking the ball down the field. Or if the Chargers decide to, put their foot on the Jets' throat, you can have a lot of Melvin Gordon in that game. So either or, Tom's in a very good position to either or one of those players. They could be really well. Also, he has the number one running back, Todd Gurley, going against Tennessee, and Tennessee has been not so great. So I could see that this is these three players itself going against Cam Newton, Jordan Howard, and Jamal Williams. I don't see that just going well. First and foremost, when it comes to Mike's running backs, Jordan Howard has a terrible matchup against the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, if they do anything good, it's stop the run. So Jordan Howard has a really bad matchup. Also, Jamal Williams is going against Minnesota. Minnesota has been probably one of the better defenses in the league this year. So just based off these two matchups off Mike's not looking good at defense. And I have, from both running backs, Tom has the advantage.
Awesome. And I just have to say that you're really freaking me out right now because you're making a lot of sense. The wide receivers, what do you got going on here?
So we have Emmanuel Sanders, which is questionable, but I definitely think he will play against Washington. Martavius Bryant without Antonio Brown is now a huge person, probably a wide receiver one now going into this game against Houston. And you have Josh Gordon going against Chicago's defense, which is secretly a decent defense and has a decent secondary. But on the other hand, you have Mike here that has Doug Baldwin, Jarvis Landry, and Keelan Cole. Really?
He's playing because Marquise Lee might be out and
Yeah.
Hearns is still out.
So I think that he I don't know what Mike plans on doing. You know, Mike's a champion. I'm not going to question him for what he does. Hold on one second. Let me run inside real quick.
This guy on his deck drinking a beer. You
Yeah.
son of a bitch.
So I'm gonna go inside and do my wide receivers now. So I have Emmanuel Sanders going against Washington, and we have Doug Baldwin going against Dallas. So I have Doug Baldwin absolutely tearing up that secondary in Dallas over Emmanuel Sanders in Washington. I think Washington is one of those secondaries that a lot of people don't talk about them too much. But Emmanuel Sanders is good, but with that quarterback play in Denver, I mean, Osweiler, they're talking about not playing him and putting Paxton Lynch back in there, and it's a big mess in Denver. And I don't like Emmanuel Sanders. I love him as a player. I don't like him in the matchup or that situation that's going on. So I have Doug Bowen, which is the greatest wide receiver of all time, over Emmanuel.
If you're Emmanuel Sanders, how bad can't you wait till next year and have Eli Manning as your quarterback?
That might be possible, and that might add fantasy value coming up next year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to that. The
I am.
Eli Manning to Demaryius Thomas combo is going to be nice.
Ooh, it's going to be nice.
Yeah.
Now we have Martavius Bryant at Houston, and we have Jarvis Landry going against Kansas City. Now, Jarvis Landry has been one of the better receivers, but let's kick the ballistics here. He is a wide receiver 2-3 at best. That's who he is. He's a PPR guy. He doesn't get a ton of yardage. He is who he is. But Martavius Bryant, now with Antonio Brown not there, I see Ben using him a ton, along with Juju Schuster-Smith. So I see a lot of Martavius Bryant in that game. And I have Martavius Bryant over Jarvis Landry. So far we have it evened out with their wide receivers. Now we have Josh Gordon going against Chicago's secondary, and then you have Keelan Cole going against San Fran. Now San Fran, their defense has gotten a lot better. That acquisition with Garoppolo has been really, really good. The defense has been playing a lot better. Kyle Shanahan knows what he's doing over there. I have actually Jacksonville possibly having a shootout. But this kid Cole, he's impressive. I actually was watching the game and I was like, holy shit, all these no-name guys are freaking scoring touchdowns out of nowhere. But I actually like this kid Cole over Josh Gordon because...
Get the fuck out of here, dude.
I do. I like this kid over Josh Gordon.
You didn't even know who he was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was.
But you talked yourself into him.
But I talked myself into it when I was looking at this. I was actually looking at it
Johnny,
yesterday.
Stay golden, pretty boy.
So I'm hoping that Cole has actually switched out for Deshaun Jackson or a Cole Beasley or something like that. That's what I'm hoping.
Bro, you just picked him over the other guy, and now you're saying that he should be substituted out for somebody else. Go on. Move on to tight end. Tight end.
Now we have Vernon Davis versus Gronk. I don't think I need to say any more about that. It's Gronk. And even though Vernon Davis has a nice matchup going against Denver's defense, just Vernon Davis is old as shit.
I don't even need to say any more, but I'm going to say some more.
What?
No, anyway, go ahead.
And then we have Zeke back from suspension. Yes.
Woo, woo.
Yes. The NFL is back with Zeke. All right. Going against Zach Ertz. Now, Zach Ertz of lately has been okay, even before the Carson Wentz injury. He kind of was on a slump, but he's going against Oakland. But we have Zeke coming back against Seattle, which is a tough defense, but they've been hurt. So I have this pretty much evened out, but I have Zeke coming back strong for this game in a really strong way. I could see Zeke going for 28, 30 points in this.
Okay.
And then we have the Eagles defense going against Oakland, which Oakland's been kind of shitty of lately. And then we have the Vikings going against an Aaron Rodgers-less Packers offense. So I have slightly the Eagles defense over the Vikings. And then kicker, you could just kick yourself in the balls.
Okay. All right. So who do you have winning the game?
I have by a slim margin of about 10 to 15 points, the Moth.
The Moth by a slim 10 to 15 point margin.
Yep.
All right.
And it will go down to probably Monday's game.
Monday's game. All
Yep.
right.
Yep. It will be Monday. And I think that's a big one between Martavius Bryant playing and Zach Ertz. It will go down to that. I mark my words.
All right. Very cool.
So,
thank you very much, John. I appreciate you taking time to break it all down, taking time out of your, relaxing by the patio, drinking beers in the 82-degree weather. And let me say from all of us here in the Northeast and actually across the world, across the great land, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and better luck next year, pal.
yeah.
All right. So we'll see you guys next week, where it's always sunny.